So sometime in the 20s, this fellow Lafayette Dorrington, who even lied about his rank, he called himself a colonel, but he was a second lieutenant. He is investigated for dereliction of duty by Washington, D.C. He would ultimately remove 135 landless tribal bands from the list of tribes awaiting land purchase under his jurisdiction. The very first one was the Verona Band of Alameda County. And he wrote, there's one band in Alameda County commonly known as the Verona Band, located near the town of Verona. These Indians were formerly those that reside in close proximity to Mission San Jose. It does not appear at the present time there is need for the purchase of land for the establishment of their homes. The problem is, he said they live near the town of Verona. There's never been a town of Verona. He never visited them, never conducted a needs assessment, and he did the same for the other 134 landless bands. He was a drunk. But as the tribe is still remaining landless, John Peabody Harrington from the Bureau of American Ethnology interviews Jose Guzman, records 27 of his songs, and also interviews Angela Colos. And from some of the interviews, we see the Clareños. The Indians from Mission Santa Clara were much intermarried with the Georgianos, the Indians from Mission San Jose. The dialects were similar. And again, we see Muwekma Ohlone. So something happens with Dorrington. He's either fired or he retires. But a guy named Oscar Lips is writing to the assistant commissioner. He says, now it seems to me that the thing for us to do is look at the facts in the face and admit that in the past the government has been woefully negligent and inefficient to rectify our past mistakes. It is difficult to locate the blame, but somewhere along the line there appears to have been gross negligence or crass indifference. The reason why I'm presenting this, even though it's 1931, that gross negligence and crass indifference still exists today from the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C. So in 1928, because of Citizen Act of 24, California Indians organized and they decided to sue the United States over the 8.5 million acres of land that they never received. Congress freaks out, creates the California Indian Jurisdictional Act, and the Muwekmas enroll. Here are some of the enrollment applications from 28 to 32. This is Lucas Marine. You see he uses Ohlone on his BIA application. The examiner did not ever hear of the word Ohlone, and he refers to his mother, Avelina Marine, who died in 1904. He said, my mother's parents born in Mission San Jose. The records of her family ought to be found there, and we did find her record, her baptismal record, her mother's baptismal record, her parents' baptismal records going back to Mission Dolores and Mission San Jose. Catherine Marine, which is Jose Guzman's granddaughter, she was a full blood. She was married to Lucas Marine at the time. Her children were still dancing the traditional dances exported from Pleasanton. This is the bear dance in the 1980s. This is Mercedes Marine's son. She had died in 1914. He was adopted by another member of the tribe, Phoebe Alanese. These are the Thompson or Mija families. Carl Thompson, this is his grandmother. He was a former councilman of the tribe. Dolores Sanchez and her siblings enrolled in the Bureau. That's Dolores again in the middle with her daughter. This is Charlene's grandmother and mother. And the siblings, Albert Arellano enrolls. This is, again, Monica Arellano's grandfather. Francesca Guzman enrolls. She is the great-grandmother of Councilwoman Sheila Guzman, who is a present councilwoman today. Maggie Juarez was an important leader of the tribe. She was a godmother to many of the Indians there. She lived in Newark. And Trina Marine was a leader of the tribe. And she has a large family. That's her on the right. And Mary Munoz is an elder who's on the Elders Council. That's her in the middle. She was born in 1910 and baptized at St. Augustine in Pleasanton. And Jose Binoco was an elder who was born around the 1850s. And he was of African full blood. He's one of the last surviving members of the Mission San Jose Indian Band. Let's see, and this is Dolores Marin Galvan, had a large family. All 5 of her sons served in the United States Armed Forces in World War II. The one in the middle there, Hank Alvarez, who just passed at the age of 100, was in the 101st Airborne Division. She writes a letter to the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Sacramento because they're hurting. This is the Depression. They basically are just barely scraping by. What happened to that Indian deal? A lot of people want to find out about it, so they asked me to write you. We heard that there was a meeting about Indian claims. My great-grandfather was chief of the tribe of Pleasanton. It took 4 years for her to get a letter back. Mrs. Galvan is shown on the roll of California Indians as one half-blood, but she does not have ward status, therefore not eligible for any aid from federal funds through this agency. It took them 4 years. So some of the kids were too dark to go to school in the Bay Area. This is Lawrence Domingo Marin, the son of Dario Marin and Catherine Peralta. He is shipped off to Sherman Institute 1931 till 1940 when he enlists in the United States Marine Corps. That's him in the upper left. He serves till 1946. He's in almost every single major battle in the Pacific. And then his brother, Ernest Marin, is, you'll see that these are some of the men who served in the armed forces. The one in the lower middle, Robert Sanchez, was in the 508th Parachute Infantry Division, 82nd Airborne Division. And in the 40s, kids went to Indian boarding school up at Chemawa, Oregon. Affidavits that were submitted to the Bureau said that she was, this is Trina Marine, she was a descendant of a local Indian tribe, was born in Pleasanton in California in the early 1900s, and it says she is. The Bureau of Indian Affairs crossed out the word is and said was. There was no tribe in 1945. This is their interpretation of the documentation. During the 47 to 50s, family members joined the Bay Area California Indian Council. Families enrolled with the Second Bureau of Indian Affairs enrollment. This is Trina Marine's enrollment in 1950. And then Kroeber supports the California Indians in the claims hearings with the anthropologists from Berkeley, and he refers to them as full-bloods. It's just that the anthropologists have taken extinction too far. They are still around, they're still full-bloods, and he uses Mission San Jose, the Pleasanton Refuge, as examples of survivorship in 1955. And in 1951, a settlement was issued for $150, calculated with interest back to 1852 for the value of the 8.5 million acres of land they never received. So each surviving head of household was able to get a check for $150 for 8.5 million acres of land. In the 1960s, the Ohlone Cemetery was going to be sold off for destruction. The tribe came together with the American Indian Historical Society in San Francisco to protect the Ohlone Cemetery, and they were able to get the title to the cemetery. Within living memory of the families, family members were still buried there, and the diocese decided to sell it off with 4,000 burials. So with the Ohlone, the American Indian Historical Society, the Muwekma show up as Ohlone Indian historians. Congressman Don Edwards said he contacted the Bureau of Indian Affairs to preserve the cemetery, to take it into trust, And they informed me they do not have jurisdiction in this matter since the Ohlone Indians are not officially recognized as an American Indian tribe. It is their opinion that legislation of this kind would not have a chance in Congress, just like today, since their official position is to encourage Indians to enter the mainstream of American life rather than to be singled out as a tribe. This is the period of termination and relocation of tribes off their reservations and dumping them into various cities around the country. So the tribe shows up in the newspapers in 1966, the local newspapers, and there's only one such cemetery. We have been told that Congressman Don Edwards supports the tribe may introduce some sort of legislation. So these are the Muwekmas. The Bureau of Indian Affairs says you cannot use any of this as evidence that you're a tribe. You cannot use it as evidence. So the Ohlone story was published in 1968 to 72. There was the third BI enrollments. The tribe enrolls again. They're listed. Here's an application. They're the only tribe to deploy the ethnonym Ohlone. And this is Ernest Thompson and his son Carl on the on Alcatraz. They enrolled again. This is Margaret Martinez. She was the last Ohlone to be baptized at Mission San Jose. In the 1971, there was a settlement for 64,425,000 acres of land, and it was for $668.61. This is Beatrice Marine. She never cashed her check. Many of the Indians never cashed their checks. So the tribe incorporated. Malcolm Morgullen wrote his book, The Ohlone Way, which is really useless. Berkeley attacks the repatriation of 550 burials from Stanford University. And he says that is not to say there aren't people around here who are of Indian heritage, but now his methodology. I'd be willing to bet they could not give you even a semblance of a lineage account that was Aboriginal. So who are you going to believe? Me as a white PhD anthropologist or these women of color? This is the reburial of the 550 burials over in the East Bay that were repatriated from Stanford. And then the tribe petitioned the federal government for restoration. Yes? 2 minutes, yeah. Anyway, they got a notice of, because of the significance and permanence of acknowledgement as a tribe, decision to acknowledge an Indian tribe, establish a perpetual government-government relationship. The tribe appears in newspaper articles. This is West Magazine. 1992, the Advisory Council on California Indian Policy Act is passed, which was originally a federal recognition bill. Resolution from the state of California supporting the recognition of the three coast-known tribes. Holly Record got a letter from Condoleezza Rice. They went to the White House with their petition materials under the Clinton administration. And even the Bureau of Indian Affairs says it's ready to assist the Muwekma Council and the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe in seeking administrative federal recognition on the basis your tribes were never terminated. Here I'll stop, because basically when we interfaced with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they denied the tribe's right to use these documents, and they argued before the court that only one piece of evidence was submitted between 1927 and 1982. They denied the tribe's existence, and they did recommend that Congress should be able to enact legislation. And in 2000, Congressman George Miller drafted legislation, the California Tribal Status Act, but it would not get out of committee when the Democrats had control of the House of Representatives. So these are the kinds of things that the tribe is confronted by.